Aim is among the most crucial and sought after skills in Counter-Strike. We spend countless hours shooting bots, deathmatching, and crafting our own practice routine. But oftentimes it's trained inefficiently, causing players to miss out on the true potential they have. Aim covers a wide array of topics, learning curves, and discussion points, a lot of which are unexplored on YouTube. So join me as I take you from the basic fundamentals to mastering each category with a consistent practice routine that is flexible to your skill level. I'm going to break aim down into 5 categories: counter-strafing, spray accuracy, crosshair placement, tracking, and flicking. They all play a crucial part in one's aiming ability. Strength in one of these categories can be bottlenecked by neglection in another. And since this is an ultimate guide, let's look at a brief description on each one. Counter-strafing is when you counter your momentum by tapping the opposite key to the direction you're moving in. You see, your accuracy is based on your velocity, so in order to be accurate, you need to be standing still. Counter-strafing allows us to have those accurate shots, whilst also having good maneuverability. This is useful when clearing angles, jiggle peeking, or if you're in a gunfight and don't want to be an easy target. In CS, every gun has a unique spray pattern that can be learnt. There are community maps that can help you with this, but I usually just shoot at a wall. When practicing spray control, we want to make sure we don't form any bad habits. But I'll go over bad habits and how to break them later in the video. Crosshair placement isn't just aiming at head height, it's also knowing the maps and predicting how your enemy will peek. You can also predict your enemy's crosshair placement in order to have an advantage. The last two are pretty self-explanatory. Tracking is the ability to track your enemy, and flicking, bloody main character. Everyone will struggle with different aspects, and certain aspects are just harder in general. For example, tracking can be difficult because there's 2 pivot points of your aim, the arm and the wrist. Your arm is responsible for the larger movements, and your wrist is responsible for the micro adjustments. The amount of arm or wrist you use varies depending on your sensitivity and your mouse grip, but either way you look at it, transitioning between the two is vital. You know, Apex once said, "One thing that makes ZywOo so good is that he's comfortable anywhere on his mousepad." And this is true. If you're able to snap 180 and for it to not affect your micro adjustments, you're just going to be better overall. So with all of this in mind, I want to provide you with an aim routine that can focus on your weaknesses whilst polishing and maintaining your strengths. The routine isn't going to be centered around kill count, it's going to be timed. I've designed it this way so you can have more efficient levels of focus throughout the routine, and you're not randomly goofing off. First, let's download aim_bots. After the new update, this is a lot easier to do. Just go to the workshop, type aim_bots, and subscribe to it. You can do these exercises in any practice map, but I find aimbots just to be more efficient for me. Once you're in, you're going to want to pause this timer, look up, and get rid of every section except for one. I also like to make sure that the bots have head armor. Now you're prepped and ready, the first exercise will warm up your wrist muscles. We're going to counter-strafe back and forth whilst tracking the enemy, and then we're going to shoot them. Make sure to stay relaxed when you're doing this. It might be difficult at first, but that's just because you're not warmed up. Sit up straight and relax your shoulders. You'll find it a lot easier after doing this. After you've done that for about 5 minutes, you're going to want to no-clip out the box you're in and run around the bots with your knife out. This is going to warm up your arm aim, and again, try to be as relaxed as possible. Keep your crosshair around the head, but it doesn't have to be perfect. The main goal is to be relaxed, and perfection will come with that. After circling the bots for 2 minutes, we're going to counter-strafe side to side again, just like before, but instead of tracking the enemy, we're going to do a 180 and try to snap to the closest guy. It doesn't matter how fast or slow you do this. In my previous video, I spoke about a saying that goes, "Slow is smooth, smooth is fast." It's the theory that if you learn something slowly but smoothly, that speed will come naturally, and most importantly, it'll be accurate. We're going to do this for like 10 minutes, so make sure to stay focused the whole time. And after we've done that, we're going to do the circling around the bots again for 2 minutes. This is like kind of a chill out time where you can be a bit like, "Oh fucking hell," because it is a lot of focus. Alright, after we're done with that, we're just going to go back into the middle and get rid of all of the bots except for one. Now we can practice our flicks, because after we kill the guy, he's just going to spawn somewhere random, you know. After we kill the guy, we're going to bring our crosshair back to the middle, and we're going to just keep flicking side to side. After doing that for 5 minutes or so, we're going to add another bot. We're going to do a similar thing to before, but now, after shooting the first guy, we're going to spray transfer to the other fella. If you whiff the spray, it's all good. Just reset and keep going. If you find that this is really easy, you can add more bots, but make sure you're not just spraying and praying. We want to digest what we're doing in order to improve. After doing that for 5 minutes, we're going to circle the bots again. It's just to kind of shake off, you know, like after you're pumping iron in the gym and then you kind of shake your arms and stuff. But yeah, this next exercise is a bit more advanced because it's very tricky on the movement. We're going to do the 180 flicks like earlier, but we're going to incorporate forwards and backwards movements as well as side to side. This is going to make counter-strafing more difficult because we're working with diagonals, meaning we're pressing 2 keys to stop our velocity. If you're struggling with this, you can focus on one diagonal direction and then try switching to the other. This is a really good exercise. It reminds me of an interview I saw with Bear Grylls. He trains in a way which is more aimed towards what he's going to be doing. He's not training for aesthetics. He's training so he could be more prepared for any movement he needs to make whilst he's out and about in the woods. And in CS, we're not training for aesthetics. We're training so we can win games. Looking good comes alongside that. Another easier version of this exercise is to turn off the head armor for the bots and run around with a Glock or something. This way, you don't have to counter-strafe, but you can still get used to using all the movement keys, and it'll also work on your tracking skills. After doing that for 10 minutes, we're going to go on to the last exercise. We're basically going to take our mouse and put it to the very left side of the mousepad, and we're going to flick to each enemy going in a circle until we reach the other side of the mousepad. When we reach the other side of the mousepad, we're just going to come straight back. The focus of this exercise is to not readjust your mouse. It'll feel rank at some points, but that's good because it shows you what positions you're not comfortable in. We're going to do that for about 5 minutes, and yeah, little cheeky routine for you. On my channel, I've typically spoken about the mental side of the game, and I've even stated that mentality ties your in-game skills together, and they do. But it also works the other way around, because they have a symbiotic relationship. So if you consistently do this routine, you'll reap the rewards of more confident, composed gameplay. It's a recipe for success. So get aimbots and fucking have it. Before I started this video, I asked you guys what you struggled with the most in terms of aiming, so I could discuss it in detail and try and help you to improve. So let's look at some of the questions. Raby1, I think is how you pronounce your name, but Raby1 asks, why am I not consistent, either in my aim, confidence, timings, etc. And he also says he loves the channel, which I do love to see. Well, first of all, thank you for the kind words, and thank you for the question. Being consistent is a very broad subject, and it can have multiple answers. Oftentimes, the person who needs to find those answers is ourselves. But regardless, I'm going to try and point you in the right direction. If you feel like you're getting bad timing, watching demos with X-ray enabled will help. Next time you have a bad game, I want you to download your demo when it's fresh in your memory, and watch back on those times where you got timinged or made a bad move. And then, when you're in a similar situation next time, you have more intel on what the wrong move is, which will help you in finding the right one. Being inconsistent in your confidence though, that could be a few things. It could be that your aim is inconsistent and it's affecting your confidence, which hopefully this video will help with. Or it could be the social setting within your games. If you're in a toxic sounding team and you're not comfortable, you're not going to feel confident. Developing a skill in being unfazed by your teammates is really tricky, but I'd recommend playing with friends in your lobbies where you can. Cameron Lemon says, I feel like my biggest problem is shooting too early. If I'm holding an angle and the enemy swings, I'll start to shoot as I'm following their head, but because he's shooting too early, he's not hitting his shots and the enemy one-taps him. Well, Cameron, I understand your problem. It sounds like you're shooting and flicking at the same time. To follow your example, holding angles can be really difficult for this since your options feel limited. The person peeking is controlling that situation and you're reacting, so they're always going to have the advantage. But if you're struggling with shooting early, try to adjust your crosshair placement. If you think the person's going to swing wide, hold wider, but if you think they're going to jiggle peek, hold close. Another option is to jiggle peek the angle yourself. Try and force their hand and use it to your advantage. It's all really situational, and it depends whether you want to be reactive or proactive. But if you're talking about a broader spectrum and not just the example of peeking, Biddle says that he has sluggish aim, almost like he's strafing back and forth and shooting where the enemy was and not tracking him. This is a great topic. I think everyone struggles with or has struggled with this before. I call it tap dancing. One thing I can suggest is trying to move your crosshair less. Kind of use your movement to direct your aim, because tracking someone whilst counter-strafing yourself is very tricky. Asta0, I love the profile picture, and they're saying that they're not patient enough and end up spraying and missing instead of one-tapping. This is a common problem, so don't worry. It comes down to forgetting everything you've practiced as soon as you get into a gunfight. The key is to break that cycle. Practicing on headshot-only servers is a good way to get out of that spraying habit. Additionally, you could fine-tune your spray and use it to your advantage. If you find that spraying is a big part of your playstyle, you should try and make it a strong point of yours. Gizmoonwile says, I'd like to see the other side of the coin, where overconfidence with your aim is considered. Gizmoon, belter comment. I think it's a very worthy discussion point. Sometimes, one's self-confidence can blind them from seeing that everyone is capable, or might lead you to peeking when you shouldn't. It's all about finding a healthy balance, and also about having confidence in your teammates, not just yourself. But I'd like to return to the topic of confidence for a whole video, since there's a lot more to explore still. But yeah, thank you guys for the comments. I hope I made some good suggestions, and hopefully someone else had a similar question and also benefited from it. Honestly, you're all bloody lovely. I spoke about a lot in this video, but before it ends, I want to talk about one more thing: bad habits. It's important to remember not to form bad habits. Patience is required to practice, and you need to have really good self-discipline. An example of the bad habit is the crouch spraying we were talking about earlier. Breaking this is difficult. It's the case of getting used to not doing what your muscle memory is telling you to do. If you hop in a deathmatch and unbind crouch, it'll feel grim, but that's because it's going against your muscle memory. You'll soon adjust to it, and then when you rebind crouch, you'll be able to build a better relationship with the crouch button. Much like a lot of you have built a good relationship with that subscribe button. Honestly, I've gained so many subscribers over the past week, and I say thank you at the end of every video, but I'm gonna keep doing that because, you know, I appreciate you.
Oh, I feel like I'm walking down a sunflower grove, and it feels so good. I've got music in my ears and I'm letting all my dopamine flow, and it feels so good. I wasn't in love at the start of the